Hola, me llamo Amalia y soy azafata de Iberia. Imagine this. We've just finished shooting a feature film. The crew is packing their suitcases to go home. Everyone has finished working except for my mother. She and I are in Oviedo, the conservative, fascist, right-wing counterpart to my city, allegedly Woody Allen's favorite town, place where Francisco Franco went on holiday, civilians wear Austrian leather jackets, and the streets are adorned by figurative public sculptures. The atmosphere is heavy, pale. Statues wear absurdly realistic shoes. We are here to stand in line at the Princess of Asturias Prize, which is a sort of Spanish version of the Nobel Prize. The idea is to capture my mother in character through television cameras, infiltrating national TV with fiction.
Que desfilan por la alfombra azul, algunos hasta con sillas para llevar mejor las horas de espera.
Hombre, a todos, la verdad. No distingo a ninguno. Me encantan todos.
Primera vez que veo a Leonor y a Sofía y me gustaría verlas.
Pero este año han ampliado el perímetro de seguridad y pocos han sido los que veían la entrada de premiados y de la familia real que llegan al teatro en vehículos. Por eso se ha visto mucho público en todo el trayecto en la calle Uría e incluso por Conde Toreno.
4 o 5 horas y luego la policía nos movió, estábamos de aquel lado y todas muy contentas y con mucha ilusión de ver a los Reyes.
Este año queremos ver más, pero no nos dejan. Pero
Llegasteis un poco lejos, ¿no?
un poco lejos, sí. Pero es que estos premios son nuestros, que nadie nos los pueden quitar.
Yo no he venido nada más que por los Reyes y porque sepa España que todos les queremos.
Y que somos españoles.
Somos españoles.
It worked. But now that we finished production, I find myself asking, why? Why did I make this film, and why did I get in so much trouble to make it? Art school, as I knew it, had a very colonial approach to art making. We were instructed to first research a topic, then materials, then production. Finally, we would write a sort of mini TED talk about it, like a cheap salesman. The aim was to take inspiration from those trapped by their circumstances and unable to be part of the discourse due to class, race, or disability. Pretty much like claiming tea is your thing when you already know it is a thing somewhere else. So what I would say is that everything started with this image of a mother-daughter scammer duo infamous for the petty crimes they committed in Gijón, the city where I grew up.
Son madre e hija y podrían haber robado hasta 6.000 euros en restaurantes o establecimientos de comida como este, en Lugones.
Bocadillos de carne guisada, bocadillos de tortilla rellena. La verdad que ellas da bien el pego, pero muy bien, muy bien, muy bien.
El juicio contra Justina y su hija Ana Belén, acusadas de estafar 5.600 euros en 3 restaurantes y una tienda de niños de Gijón, se suspende ante la negativa de su abogado a defenderlas. Se hacían pasar por mujeres adineradas y conseguían convencer a los responsables de que pagarían las facturas aludiendo a su buena posición. La hija incluso aseguraba tener un romance con el ahora candidato socialista a la alcaldía de Gijón, José María Pérez. Ponían como excusa que tenían la casa de Somio en obras para comer y cenar a diario en los restaurantes. Sin embargo, las acusadas tenían su residencia en un modesto piso del llano, y la realidad es que no tenían ni luz para cocinar.
My work has often referred to the topics of appearance and class, so it all made sense. But unconsciously, the film was more of an outlet for the putrefied bile I had been bottling up since my father committed fraud using my signature, and my mother and I lost our home against the bank because of it. As a child, I lived in a small apartment in Gijón, the working-class socialist counterpart to Oviedo, a coastal town sprinkled with abstract public sculptures. My serenely gloomy existence of school and running wild in the streets was only ever interrupted to go and pay our landlord in cash. Angela and Lola were what you would call good landlords. They owned a bunch of property because they had won the lottery, which is an euphemism for engaging in prostitution and smuggling condoms during the Franco dictatorship. They never had kids, so they were very nice to me. Every time we visited, Lola would give me a tiny toy from her vast collection of plastic Disney figurines. A few years later, struck by Alzheimer's, Lola was under the care of Catholic nuns who tried to convince her to donate her home to the church. After some weeks of uncertainty, we learned that my name, not the church, had ended up in her will. And that was it. The only explanation my father ever gave me at the time was that outsiders, them, had helped outsiders, us, and that's how I owned property when I was 10. Many years later, out of college and out of London, I was back in Gijón unemployed and living with my mother during the peak of Spain's financial rock bottom. My ex in London had said that he was never, ever going to talk to me again, but he had to break his silence because his mother, a talented painter and an accurate medium, had received a message from a woman named Dolores. She had told her to contact me, to tell me to be careful, and that there was something of value in the house, right where the wall goes inwards and it sounds hollow. Who's Dolores? That's Lola, my mom said. And that's when I learned Lola was a divinity for Dolores and realized that Lola's Flores is actually Dolores Flores, which rhymes. We were shaking in fear and excitement. What if there was a stash of money hidden inside the wall, or jewels? We dreamt of hot meals and new clothes while following the ghost instructions. And there was a spot that sounded hollow, right where a nook embraced our gas heater perfectly. We grabbed a hammer and hoped for the best. Instantly, a perfect hole. Inside the hole, a dead bird. A small little blackened sparrow lying perfectly on its back with its legs up. We shrugged and laughed at our pathetic luck. We were still broke, and now we had to fix the wall too. We never heard from Lola again. One of the few things I remember fondly about my father is when he asked me to make a fake driver's license for him. His Argentinian one was falling apart, and to get a Spanish one he would have to go to driving school again, which was as expensive as it was emasculating. Thrilled that he had trusted me this task, I did the graphics on Microsoft Word the best I could. Together, we chose the paper and copied the rubber stamps. Then we got it laminated. He used that license for many years. He always told people about it proudly and teary-eyed, and that made my heart warm until I realized it wasn't precisely my graphic design skills that kept him out of trouble. The lawyer said I'd be able to appear telematically, but then the judge ruled against it the day of the trial. An image of me didn't suffice. Therefore, my memory of the trial is informed by my mom's account, both incomplete and personal, and my own collection of mental images of what a trial looks like that I've gathered from American movies throughout my life. In this memory, I see my father showing something to the judge. It is the Forbes 30 under 30 list and a stupid clickbait article written by some starving intern reading how this 2014 Instagram hoax predicted the way we now use social media. Backed by the bank, my father, very intelligently and cold-blooded, used in his favor the fact that most articles about excellences and perfections contain the word hoax in their headlines. Misinformation had propagated hysterically. On paper, I was a millionaire and a world-renowned scammer. An image of me did suffice. My fictional on-screen self had devoured the living and breathing me. Case closed. By whom? Daddy's bad. The countdown had begun. My mother and I started dividing friends between those who have attics and those who don't. An exercise in humility, a Buddhist joke. A slow, gradual fire. With naive enthusiasm, I thought my movie's location would be as excited about the film as I was. Not that many movies are set in Gijón, so I was hopeful. I knocked on the door of every single governmental office for production funding. And there was money, yes, but it was all allocated to very specific projects. Stories about the Civil War, documentaries about mining strikes, feminist storytelling in the local dialect. Basically anything that excluded first-generation immigrants. Most films receiving state funding reflect that country's official narratives and iconography, symptomatic of their myths and customs. And I didn't fit any of the categories because I'm not Spanish, which, despite the obvious, is still a hard pill to swallow after a life of assimilation.
A light bulb joke is a joke that asks how many people of a certain group are needed to replace a light bulb. Generally, the punchline highlights a stereotype. Early versions of the joke were used to insult the intelligence of people. In Argentina, the most common version of this joke is a part of a long list of chistes de gallegos, or jokes about Spaniards. Question: how many gallegos are needed to change a light bulb? Answer: 1 to hold the light bulb and 9 to turn the ladder.
Argentina's obsession with pedantic intellectualism and big words is only a sign of their insecurity towards Europe. Argentina might be more refined, white, than Peru or Bolivia, but Spain will always be the motherland. Spain is Europe, and Europe comes first. My great-grandfather was a Guarani Indian gaucho who married a stylish French woman. His many daughters look indigenous to different degrees, which affected their lives drastically. I didn't want to marry him. I was in love with somebody else. A gorgeous brown boy, said my grandmother about my grandfather. His German family wasn't rich. It was their race alone that made them superior in an Argentina obsessed with whitening and racial hygiene. And so my grandma married among horses in the muddy soil of northern Argentina, only to be abandoned after her 2 children were born. My uncle, a brown boy, and my mother, a blonde who until recently claimed Russian heritage to explain her Native American features. Argentina's history is strongly twisted by the self-denial that comes with heavy racial colonial hierarchies. Everyone grabs the little information told by their parents and tries to make sense of their facial features with grandiose stories about mysterious European heritages. Magical thinking is part of the Argentinian identity. To be Argentinian is to identify reality through fiction. I also lived in obscurity until I went to college abroad. Why was I so ignorant? Why were the Spaniards around me so ignorant too? Well, still today, in 2020, in 4 years of high school, there are only 2 spreads about the so-called discovery of the Americas. La obra de España en América. Colonización o explotación. La labor de España en América ha suscitado muchas críticas. No cabe duda de que se buscaba ante todo la obtención de oro y de riquezas y que para ello se utilizó de forma masiva mano de obra indígena. A mediados del siglo XVI se crearon en América las primeras universidades. En 1538 se imprimió en México el primer libro aparecido en el nuevo continente. En resumen, se puede afirmar que la colonización española abrió camino a un proceso de aculturación y de enriquecedor mestizaje. In naive ignorance, most Spaniards feel a closeness to Latin America based on a shared language, while forgetting they were the ones imposing their tongue by force, sickness, and genocide. We all live a fiction of our own choosing within the stage provided by the state. While I was still in Gijón after shooting up Planeta, the Gijón International Film Festival took place, which would have been great if I hadn't gotten friend-zoned by local government workers. I was invited to the gala, yeah, but instead the invitation came all the way from Argentina, which made me feel all the more awkward and foreign. Apparently, the main act, an eccentric piano player from Buenos Aires, had been told by a renowned curator that he must absolutely meet me. I showed up and they couldn't find my name. I stepped to the side and started to move my head like an ostrich to see if I recognized anybody to let me in. I waved when I saw Nacho through the glass doors. Nacho acted in El Planeta a few weeks before and was premiering a TV show at the gala. He took me in and quickly mentioned an after-party before running back to pose with his crew for promo pictures. The gala started. The Argentinian piano player performed surrounded by rolls of film as if swimming in the amniotic fluid of filmmaking. 2 hours later, it all ended. It was a bore. Outside, alone, I tried to kill time by smoking a cigarette. In the distance, I could see a pair of public funding gatekeepers. "Hi, are you also going to the after-party?" I surprised myself, saying. Making sure I understood I was not welcome, they said a paper invitation was required to enter. "All right, well, have fun," I said pathetically. Motivated by giving my film the post-production it deserved, I ignored them and went to the party anyway. I said I forgot the card at home. They shrugged and let me in. The music was horrible and all the custodians of public funds were there. Alone, in a corner, my mind was bugging me. After looking at my phone and pretending to text for way too long, I hid in the bathroom. When I came out, I saw the piano player. We smiled as we recognized each other. We went outside for a smoke. We had friends in common. It was nice. We were on the same page, but also he was my port in the storm. Él era mi clavo ardiendo. Ecstatic by synchronicity or actual ecstasy, he kept on talking to me as if I was Argentinian too, the kind of Argentinian that has lived there. I'm sorry, I was only born there, but also not in Buenos Aires, but in San Bernardo. His eyes opened wide. I used to go there on holidays, he said, which is what everyone says to me because it is a popular holiday destination. But no, he really did go there, a lot. As a teen with his friends because he was into skateboarding and punk rock and suddenly felt short of breath, nauseated. My face turned red. He You probably know my father, I said. And he had great memories of it all. He had been to my father's skateboard factory, he had admired the punk bands he sponsored, he had been part of the glorious 80s, and all of those kids turned out to be great artists, musicians, and poets, and now they live in Berlin. You have no idea how amazing it was. But I did. And I had done a lot to forget about it. But now there was this glimpse of pride, of nostalgia. That's the thing with conmen, though. You often have to credit them for being at least smart. I felt dizzy. I only had two options. Go back inside to that hell of a party and stand in a corner alone, or talk to this man about the devil. Más vale malo conocido que bueno por conocer. My father is in my features, so I can't escape. His compliments to my father grew exponentially by the second, but trying to stop him, I noticed he was not listening. I was losing shape, dimensions. I was now flat, a mere image. I realized something magical was happening. I was being objectified. I went from being visible to becoming a vision. Nothing I could ever say or do would alter his idea of me now. I was what he saw, and that was the end of me. I could be telling him I don't talk to my father, or I could be talking to him about cats and flowers. It didn't matter. He'd still stare at me just the same, mesmerized. I'm now eternal, a heavy but malleable totem. The beautiful feeling of being pleasant to someone's eye. The most definitely bearable lightness of being a thing. As an image, I will never be wrong or right. I will never die. As an image, I can never talk back. The piano man insisted I had his poetry book. The book was in his hotel room. We left the party and walked towards it. This was easier. Now I just had to listen, let the cool air hit my face, close my eyes, and feel the orange street lights on my eyelids. Step by step, along the boardwalk, we got there. I knew this hotel. My honeymoon and an Oscar-winning film took place here. Sadly, the hotel keeps numerous mementos depicting roles of film and Oscars to avoid the lobby from being objectified in any other way. Like an object of desire changing their hairstyle without permission, it ruined itself. In his room, I walked towards the balcony to stare at the sea. Someone knocked on the door. Another man from the film festival wanted something. The piano player said that whatever it was, I was a priority because I was wearing fishnet stockings, to which the other man nodded, saying he preferred leggings. We should thank the inventor of tights, they concluded. In 1 hour, I had gone from ignored to absolutely adored. I didn't cut it as a film director, but I did as an actress and a whore. But really, he said, it is so special. This connection we have, we must be together. I knew your father once, we must fuck. I nodded. I took the poetry book and left, grabbed my bike and cycled away, happy, taking the longest route home, smiling, covered in ocean spray, singing all the songs in Death of a Ladies Man, loud, very loud. I had found out why I made this movie. I used the most fetishistic art there is, film, to objectify my biggest trouble, the eviction wore stockings. The monster was now flat, a mere image, the most definitely bearable lightness of being a thing. As an image, the monster will never be wrong or right. It will never die. As an image, the monster can't hold back. An image of it will suffice.